Well, hello everyone, and today's video is for the shrimp keeper who is heartbroken, frustrated. They just cannot figure out why their shrimp die. And I have five of the most common reasons of why these shrimp die. Now, I have a lot of experience helping people. I've been doing the YouTube thing, helping people on here with shrimp. I've been selling thousands and thousands of shrimp over the years and providing customer support, helping hundreds and hundreds of people with all their different shrimp issues. And these are five of the most common issues that I come across. And I'm going to go over them, what causes them, and how we can take care of it. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is what I call TDS creep. Some people call old tank syndrome. And that is when you're doing minimal or no water changes and you're just topping off with tap water. Now that lies the problem. Now I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people, and this is by far and away the most common issue I see with people keeping shrimp. So what happens is when your water evaporates out of your tank, the minerals get left behind and only the pure water evaporates. The pure water evaporates, but all the minerals get left behind. Now, this is common if I get this for people who are saying, I got my shrimp, they did good, they bred after 6 months to a year. It depends on the water that this person is using. Then everything's going beautiful, everything's going fine, and then after a while, things start to head south. You start seeing random dead shrimp, babies not growing up. Just what it is you top off with your tap water that is full of minerals. And then over time in your tank, the pure water evaporates into the air, as in water vapor, but all the minerals and stuff get left behind. So you still have all those same minerals in your tank, and the pure water is gone. Well, he's like, oh, my tank's a couple inches low. Well, let's go top it off, get some water out of the sink. Well, this thing of water you're dumping in your tank, it's full of water, but it's also full of those same minerals. You dump those in over time. That water evaporates. You come back again, dump in some more tap water. So over time, the minerals in your water just keep building and building and building. And some of the people I've been helping with this problem, like, first thing you need to do is get yourself a TDS meter. Test your tap water out of your sink. And a lot of people are like, my sink water is like 250, 300. And then they'll test their tank, and it'll be something. Some people will say, like, I've had someone tell me like 1700 before is their TDS. So the ways to solve this problem is by having or doing regular water changes. It depends on what you're doing with your tank. I'm not saying you have to do water changes, because that all has to do with what you're trying to accomplish with your tank. But regular small water changes are probably your best bet. Now, get a TDS meter. They're not expensive. They're fairly cheap. And you really need one at the very beginning when you first get shrimp to acclimate them properly. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. So, test. You need a baseline reading. Check your water that comes out of the sink that you're putting in there, and check it in the tank. Now, the tank water is going to be a little bit higher because, there's stuff going on in there. You're going to have some dissolved stuff going on there. Usually, for me personally, I'd say it's about maybe 10, 15% higher in my tanks. Now, if you have a number way higher in your tank than what's coming out of your sink, then that could be the problem. So do not top off with tap water. If you're going to just top off, you need to use RODI water or distilled water. That RODI water and distilled water is water that has zero minerals. It's just pure water. So you can fill it up and then let it evaporate, and there'd be nothing left behind because it turned into water vapor. Now, you don't want that straight in your tank, but all the minerals in your tank are already there. So if you add in, you just top off with your water that is pure, doesn't have any minerals, then you should be good. Now, all right, so let's go on to reason number 2. Reason number 2 is shrimp hate sudden changes. And like I say in a lot of my videos, the number one most important thing by far is not having the perfect water. It is having water that doesn't change. Shrimp hate changes. They hate changes. So some things that can change that you may not think about. So, and I know this is one of the reasons why a lot of people say not to do water changes in their shrimp tanks, because their water source changes. The water is not always exactly the same. So this can come down to your city. Maybe one part of the year they suck water out of the creek and the creek goes dry, and then they got to suck water out of a big river or something. And you can, that can give you vastly, completely different water parameters as far as water hardness goes, which means the minerals in your water. Water is more than just wet. So there's, like we talked about earlier with the TDS creep, there's minerals in your water. And if that water's coming from a different source, like if one part of the year your water's coming from a water reservoir, and then another part of the year it's being sucked out of a river or a different body of water or sucked out of the ground, your parameters can change directly, even though that's the same water coming out of the same faucet in your same house. The water being piped to your house can be completely different. So and then another reason that this can happen is maybe you saw this super awesome cool rock you just had to add to your tank. Well, there's certain kinds of rocks that if your pH is low enough that they will dissolve. And so what that means is the rock will dissolve and add hardness to your water. So this is why, even if you don't want to go into all kinds of testing and all that, you need to have a TDS meter. And if you think something's wrong, pull out the TDS meter and check. Now, check before you do a water change and you're using tap water, check your water. Pull the TDS before you start putting that water in a tank. Check your water, see if it's close. See if it's just, like, it's not going to be exactly the same, because your tank over time is going to, like I said, is going to gain some TDS. But if it's vastly different, you don't want to suck out water and put water in that is completely different. That is a surefire way to kill shrimp. And this is one of the reasons why people are afraid to do water changes in shrimp tanks. So if you check beforehand, you dump that water in, then you know. Now, I'm not going to get exactly into how you do. If you do have something wrong, you really need RODI water and mix it the same. If you have an unreliable source of water, keeping shrimp is going to be pretty difficult to use tap water. So you may need to go the reverse osmosis, use RODI water or distilled water, and remineralize with a shrimp salt type of remineralizer. So the fourth thing I want to talk about is overfeeding in an uncycled aquarium. So basically those can kind of go hand in hand with someone who's new to shrimp or keeping aquariums in general. Now, I know the urge to put food in and watch them eat. I am very guilty of it. I put in too much food many times to make these videos. That's how I get them all gathered up. But the thing is, doing that too much, too often, can pollute your water. Now, like I said, it's tempting to always be throwing food in there and watching them eat. Oh, they come and run and eat, and they always come and get it. Well, while it is a good sign that your shrimp come for the food that that generally means they're probably doing all right. But if you keep doing that over time, you're going to foul your water. Now, the more food you put in, the more water changes you do. So it's one of those things where if you want to breed thousands and thousands of shrimp, you got to put food in there. But if you put food in there every day, lots, then you got to do frequent water changes to make up for it. Now, you can do no water changes and just top off with RODI water, but when you're doing that, you really need to feed the absolute bare minimum. Now, I kind of do that with my Caridina tanks, but with cherry shrimp tanks, it's a lot easier to feed more, but you still can't feed too much. That has to do with the hard water versus soft water. Basically, denitrifying bacteria grow way easier in softer water. So, and the thing is with Neos can live in soft water all the way over here, or they can live all the way over here in rock hard water, as long as they're acclimated and it stays stable. But the problem, this is why not everything works the same, because everyone will have their water being a little bit different. Now, like for me, I have really hard water. I can feed a lot of high protein food, do a bunch of water changes, and everything usually works out just fine. But if you are on the softer side of keeping Neos, maybe you have a pH below 6, or maybe not below 6, but below 7, you have a pH in the 6s. And, that's going to limit how much food you can put in, especially when it comes to higher protein food. So if your water is really hard, you can get away with feeding higher protein food and a little bit more of it, but the more you feed, you still got to do those water changes. And if your water is on the softer end, you need to be careful with how much protein you put in there. Maybe you want to go more on a plant-based type of diet if your water is soft. So I think a good general rule of thumb here is don't put more food in the tank that the shrimp will feed them, let them have 2 or 3 hours. If there's still a lot of food just sitting there, you probably want to take it out. Or don't feed, take that out and don't feed as much next time, because shrimp are teeny tiny little creatures. They don't use up, they don't eat much food, they don't give off much waste. That's why they ship easy. So just keep that in mind. Don't feed too much. Encycle your tank. Maintain a healthy aquarium with healthy water. Clean, healthy water that is the same, and you'll be good. All right, this is going to be something we already talked about a little bit, but number 5 is you're using tap water, and your tap water just isn't suitable for shrimp. Now, Neos they can adapt to almost anything, but there are certain things they need in their water that has to be there to molt properly. Calcium and magnesium. And if you don't have those good, if that doesn't exist in your water, then you're going to have problems with that. And then there's also contaminants, like a lot of heavy metals can be in your water if you have water pollution. And then, like we talked about earlier, maybe your city changes the source that the water comes from throughout the year. Maybe it's softer in the spring when we get all kinds of rains. I know my water gets a little bit softer in the spring and a little bit harder in the winter. When everything's raining and it's always raining, my water will get a little bit softer. And in the winter, when everything's frozen and nothing is melting, then it'll end up getting harder when the depths of frozen winter, when every water that comes out of the sky is frozen. And then we get into the city changes where the water source. Maybe they're sucking it out of the ground, or they're sucking it out of the water reservoir, then they change and switch it up to the river. And they don't tell you, they don't know what's going on, they don't tell you what's going on. And then you have disaster. It's not good. if your water parameters vastly change like that. That's why when we get new shrimp, we drip in the new water slowly so they can adjust, so that everything can equalize with their shell. All right, in closing, let's go over everything one more time. The first reason is TDS creep or old tank syndrome. That is essentially where you're not doing water changes, which is fine, but then you top off with water that has minerals in it, and then that causes your TDS to creep up and creep up and creep up. Over time, that's just going to keep getting higher and higher and lead to disaster. Sudden changes in water parameters. Shrimp love nothing more than having the same water. It doesn't need to be perfect water, but it needs to be the same. Third, maybe you just got really bad weak shrimp that were imports. Get your shrimp from a home breeder. You won't have to even worry about diseases and problems and stuff from the get-go. Like I tell people, if they get my shrimp and they have problems with my shrimp, I know, because I've had my shrimp for anywhere from all my lines I've had for 2 years to all the way to almost 8 years at this point. And so I know they're healthy. Any problems that they may have come with when I got them are long, long gone. And so if you buy my shrimp or from another responsible, reliable home breeder, you're not going to have to worry about that kind of stuff. Overfeeding or uncycled tank. This is a big, big newbie thing. Don't feed your shrimp too much. If you put too much food in and they don't have it all gone within a couple hours, remove the food. Don't just leave it to sit there and rot. Nothing good comes from that. Remember, nobody has the exact same water. Everyone's water is different. So that, you got to be aware of that. Some people may have water that just isn't suitable for shrimp. And if you have that scenario, then you're going to have to make your own water with RODI and salty shrimp remineralizer or some kind of different shrimp remineralizer. So hopefully that helps someone today. Like I said, I've helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people over the years with shrimp. And these are the 5 most common issues that I see arise with shrimp keepers. So thank you guys for watching and have a good day. Bye.